So, guys, once again, I am joined by the magnificent Douglas Simpson. Douglas, how have you been so far?
I've been good, Alex, and yourself.
Well, I mean, nothing's changed. We all record this in one go. I mean, aren't you paying attention? It's like been 30 seconds since our last episode. In any
So,
case,
advocating for single-payer health care and plundering everybody else.
so so if you guys didn't catch the last episode I had with Douglas, make sure to check it out. 4 days ago. But as a recap, Douglas was a socialist in his early teenage years and early college years. But then, about a week after he voted for Bernie Sanders in the primary, he became more and more repulsed by socialism and by the left. And to this day, he is a conservative activist. So, picking up where we left off, continue your story.
Yes, so I think I had left off. Where had I left off at exactly?
It was your friend just took you to the RNC in Cleveland.
That's right. Thank you. Yeah, so that kind of solidified me coming in. Oh no, fast forward. My friend from Venezuela. So he made a huge impact there. So hearing his story and what's happened, and him coming to the United States to study, and just how different it was. I mean, the guy loves the United States about as much as one can. But the wars that him and his family had gone through, just the absolute danger and the sheer amount of corruption that you have to go through if you want to stay alive, especially if you're wealthier, it was incredible. And it's almost and he told me that when he listens to a lot of these leftist politicians who want to nationalize different industries, want single-payer healthcare, who want to forgive student
loan debt.
Everything is to be is to be paid for by the government, which is funded by the taxpayers. Excuse me. He said a lot of that rhetoric was similar to reminds me a lot of Chavez and Maduro. A lot of rhetoric is very similar, which terrifies me. And so meeting him through my local college Republicans chapter was very impactful. It really hit home. And so that's when I realized that I had made the right choice not supporting socialism. But even then, what I can take away from my experiences and having seen both sides, and I still go and read literature from every side of the spectrum. I read the news. You have to understand others' perspective. The one thing I learned most is we have to treat each other with respect. Now, earlier when I'm talking about like socialism and trash, so on and so forth, I'm being a little sarcastic. Mm-hmm. I'm not meaning that entirely. It's got good intentions. But we have to. But one thing I've learned is we have to be able to admit that we can be wrong. We can be flawed. That's why we have those conversations. I've had ideas where I've realized, okay, yeah, crap, I am wrong. I mean, I can't. But then but we all have those all have conversations where we need to realize that, hey, we're all human.
It sounds like you didn't have that, oh crap, I'm wrong about everything moment. It sounds like it was more of a process for you, more like a slow realization. So, what exactly, I mean, there's still a few missing spotches or pieces. Like, could you finish the tale that you've been weaving of your life?
Yeah, so.
Or tie it all together, I should say.
Yeah, so in the end, I think the best way to wrap up the story, trying to go and keep it all succinct, is after coming over, having that solidified my friend, realized I was on the right side, but I was on the right side when it comes to economics and the like. But even then, I still had those conversations. I'm not going to be one that goes, okay, cool, I figured that already. I always read it. I'm always challenging my ideas and my values and my worldview. Is this accurate? Does this make sense? And I take that approach when I deal with others as well. The greatest takeaway from me coming over, having been on different sides of the political spectrum, is we all can have bad ideas. We need to have those conversations. And sometimes even then, people hold different political views, more of a pride thing, or maybe it's a matter of they feel very insecure not doing so, or miscommunication. I think a lot of our polarization nowadays is, for the most part, a mixture of miscommunication and misunderstandings, but also demonization of each other. We forget that we're human. We all have families. We all feel something deep down. We all can love each other and be loved. And yet we think that simply we believe in different ideas is grounds for beating each other in the streets. It's the fact that I believe my idea so strongly that they should be forced upon others is terrifying. That has become so prevalent. I almost even argue it's a issue of how we use technology at this point. I think part of the reason why socialism has grown so rapidly is ironically innovation within our capitalist marketplace in the United States. We've had smartphones come about. Communication is much more rapid. It's easier to get books. I mean, almost no one buys physical books anymore. And so you're able to get audiobooks, ebooks. You're able to watch YouTube videos. You can do podcasts.
And it's not through government. It's not through government subsidies or government programs. It's through free market innovations. That was a big thing for you, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and realizing that. Yeah, and that was a very big aspect, was realizing that all the innovation we have comes from capitalism. But I find it ironic that it's helped socialism, because with that rapid change of technology, our culture has also changed. And so what's happened is we've gone from having certainty in life, where we know what we think, where we feel stable. That's gone nowadays. There is really no stability in the modern workplace. We can argue that's good or bad long term, but it's not good for human psychology. We like to have consistency. We like to be stable. Yeah. We need that purpose in life as well. And religion is something that's starting to unfortunately fall apart in society. And so it's not even a matter of arguing whether or not what religion's right or wrong. It's a matter of religion gives people purpose. Even back in the worst of times of human history, people would look to religion for comfort and to get them through hard times. Now we have a society where let's face it, we are thoroughly pampered. Even the poorest of our citizens own flat screen televisions. We have smartphones. We have food from across the world. Is there still poverty? Absolutely. But we still have far more wealth in society and far more affordability of products and essentials and luxuries even, that we've mastered survival. But survival for what? Especially as religion has started to fade in American society. Do I think it'll have a resurrection? Potentially, that depends on a variety of factors.
Resurrection. I see what you did there.
Yeah, it was actually unintentional.
But I'm interested to know, though, in your development, your political views, would you say that there was a tangential development in your faith or your religious views, if you have any?
For the longest time, I had not been religious. Neither of my parents were involved in a church or a synagogue or mosque. They were not religious, but they encouraged me to go to church with friends whenever I'd have the opportunity. So I didn't really grow up religious. Over the last year or so, I've been more into Christianity. It's still somewhere, just where having gone so long without religion being in my life, and then started being more exposed to it, it's definitely made an impact. But I'm obviously far more open to it, and that's why I see religion. That's why I see religion as a positive force now, because I've been open-minded enough to go and look at religions, ask questions, go to different services, so on and so forth. So religion has become a good part. But
the knee-jerk response whenever you bring up church or religion to socialists is, oh, it's the opioid of the masses. Look how intellectual I can quote Marx. So to see your kind of openness to religion, it's almost like you're slapping in the face of your former Marxist overlords, or is that fair of me to say? Can I get away with saying that?
I wouldn't call them Marxist overlords. It's a little, I think that'd be best way to word it. There's a lot of disagreement within socialism and communism. You can look at you have various different branches of how to execute communism. Marxism is just one variant. Right. You have Leninism, you have Stalinism, you have Maoism, Trotskyism. Right. Some are more industrial, some are more agrarian, some are more isolationist, some are more revolutionary than others. And so, with that variety, I think that's truly. I think that politics replaced religion. They say, religion is the opium of the masses. Well, revolution has become the new opium. It's something where you have that constant cause. You're fighting for the motherland. You're fighting for our society. You're fighting for this perfect system to make sure that it is not corrupted. which is a very good battle cry for a lot of people. But at the same time, you have to keep it unending. So you have to invent problems, you have to invent enemies. And I see the openness towards religion is not really a stab at the socialists and the like, because there are still socialists that are going to be Christians. Yeah, or Muslims or Jews, other religions. It's not going to be necessarily exclusionary in a sense. Like I said, there's many variants within socialism and communism. However, it's definitely seen different sides. I realized that I am just a man. I make mistakes. And we need purpose in life. And so that's where my openness to religion, why I've been looking into it far more, has come about in the last year or so, I'd say. And just flat out exposure too. And just positive exposure, where it's very, it's a matter of mutual respect. I think the biggest thing that I can bring up is if you're trying to convince somebody else that your ideas are right, first of all, you have to reason out why your idea is the best in the first place. Not just say, oh, they are because I feel so, or because it just is comforting. Some people have those uninformed beliefs. We have to be able to convince ourselves, okay, these are all the reasons why I support these ideas. This is and these are my incentives behind it, because we all operate in incentives. And so this is why I have these values. And then we go talk to somebody else, respect they have other ideas, but just do gentle conversation, show respect. The last thing you want to do is insult somebody. Mm-hmm. Don't call them a snowflake, because when you don't want to call them a snowflake, you don't want to call them a Trumpican, you don't want to call crazy commie. You don't want to call them a right-wing lunatic, because if you're trying to convince somebody, insulting them isn't going to bring them over. When's the last time you called someone a moron and they said, "No, you're right. I'm a complete idiot. How dare you?" This is happen.
Yeah. Especially if you're trying to convince the masses. So there's definitely going to be a lot of conservative folks watching who have relatives or friends that are very far to the left, as do I, and going on that conversation of, being polite. That's a pretty basic requirement of any discussion, is be polite, don't call them names. But is there really any argument, or is it really a matter of how you act as a human being that's more convincing?
It's how you act as a human being. You can throw the best arguments in academics and studies in front of someone who is a hardcore socialist, and they can look through all the information, even if it's someone who is trying to be very intellectually honest. But you can throw that in front of them, but if you do it in a very disgraceful, very derogatory way to where it's insult them if they're a child, they're not going to acknowledge it. They're going to go and have an even more adverse reaction to that information. They won't want to digest it simply because it's come up as so negative that you automatically tainted that information. You're never going to have anything completely unbiased. But when you treat someone with a little more respect and you realize that, okay, I understand where you're coming from. This is where I come in. This is where my ideas came from, how they formed. This is where I have to support them. Where does your worldview come from? And there are socialists I do talk to every so often. We'll have polite conversation. It's just simply we have a completely different worldview. I may see free market as being the best driving force for improving our lives. They see the free market as being inherently unstable. The only thing you can have that stabilize it is a complete direct democracy where everything is voted on. Or they don't tend to go for the more authoritarian side of the ones that do have the conversation. They try to be more of a decentralized direct democracy where everything is voted on, including distribution of resources. And fair enough. That's a differentiation from a lot of the socialism that we have in the United States, where it's very much top-down command economy, where it's not everyone making a decision as a community, but it is a single person or a small committee making all of those decisions. And so that's what differentiating comes from, is some are more open-minded, some aren't. Now, I do want to touch quickly, if you don't mind, on just the anger that we have in politics. I think a lot of it is, like I talked about earlier, it's a lot of that misunderstanding, but we keep insulting each other. We've created a cycle now, a very vicious, and it kind of terrifies me to say, but eventually bloody cycle. We've seen way too many riots where people on different sides are beating each other with clubs and bike locks, baseball bats, all because I believe one thing, you believe another thing. You deserve to die because of that. You do not have the right to exist because you think differently from me. That is terrifying. Unfortunately, that is an innate part of human nature, in my opinion, is we tend to be innately terrified of other ideas, but I don't think that's something that we're going to always have to deal with. We live in a society now where we have people from all different backgrounds surrounding us. It's a matter of we have to both put aside our weapons and talk to each other. We're inherently human beings are going to be fearful of anything new, but having new experiences, exposure to different people, different ideas, different backgrounds, inherently will go and help better us as long as there's mutual respect. There's always a matter of where do you find that common ground? Where do we have those commonalities that we can relate to? We're all human. We've got something. I mean, at the bare minimum, we all eat and drink and breathe air, so there's a commonality.
I like tacos. Do you like tacos? There. Okay, we're friends. So we're just for now. I'm gonna cut this off a little bit, but don't worry, folks. We'll be right back, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about what's going on currently. It'll be very, very interesting. Thank you so much, Douglas. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much, everyone. Make sure to like, subscribe, share. We'll see you shortly.